Research should be allowed into the cloning of human cells for possible use in transplants, according to government advisers. The proposals would involve growing cells from human embryos, which would then be destroyed. The advisers say any attempt to clone a complete human being should be banned.
Kept under lock and key, one of the first attempts to clone human tissue in the lab. Researchers at Edinburgh University have already grown nerve cells from the embryos of mice. They believe that the techniques developed with animal cells like these could be repeated using human embryos. They plan to grow brain, muscle and cartilage to replace tissue that's become diseased or worn out. This could, for example, be used to regenerate the brains of people with Parkinson's disease.
The potential benefits greatly outweigh the risks. I'm not sure why anybody would want to clone another human being, but I'm very clear as to why one would want to be able to develop cells, to use our own cells to cure disease in the next century.
The government's advisers on cloning have today given their approval for these kind of treatments to be developed.
We're doing a balanced exercise. No cloning of babies on the one hand, but we're recommending keeping the door open to medical research, which may be of great benefit to mankind one day.
The report says there should be new laws banning human cloning. Even so, it's angered those opposed to the technology. They believe there's little difference between these medical applications and full-blown human cloning.
Therapeutic cloning does offer some medical benefits, potentially for the future. But my own view is that it's one step too far in terms of the open door it offers for those who wish to produce cloned children.
The scientists that created Dolly the sheep have set up a company to develop medical applications. They agree that the technology could be abused.
We must have very tight and clear regulations in this area that draw the best distinctions we can between the areas that are acceptable and those that aren't. We need to police those very, very thoroughly, and there need to be significant sanctions if those are broken.
Researchers can already grow animal tissue from these embryonic cells. In a few years' time, it could be human tissue. The technology promises enormous medical benefits, but inevitably the research brings a prospect of cloning a human being a step closer. Pallab Ghosh, BBC News, at the Centre for Genome Research in Edinburgh.
Well, I spoke earlier to the chairman of the Human Genetics Advisory Commission, Sir Colin Campbell. I put it to him that there is only a difference of degree between cloning cells for use in transplants and cloning whole pieces of a human body.
We have passed a law as long ago as 8 years ago saying we will not have human cloning. We will not have human reproductive cloning. And if people think of doing this or carry it out, they will be prosecuted. It is abundantly clear in this country we will not have human cloning. The notion that scientists and doctors in the next 5 or 10 years might be able to create some sort of tissue, for example, skin to deal with bad burns, is quite a different matter. And I think what we're interested in doing is seeing things that will lead to the treatment of disease, but we will not allow human cloning.
When you say a different matter, if scientists can create a piece of tissue, of human tissue, which might lead to treatment for a skin condition or a burn, what is the difference between doing that and creating, for instance, a whole new kidney?
We must regulate and decide what research we want to allow and what treatment we want to allow and what tackling of disease we want to allow and what things we regard as ethically repugnant that we do not allow.
If I could just interrupt you there, I sense from the answers that you've given me that actually you believe a lot of the publicity surrounding this is well, scare tactics.
I think that's true. I think that the problem we've got about the word cloning is the problem we got from all sorts of novels, that there's a hysterical imagery. But I think that the basic motive that is underpinning what is happening in science and medicine is to try to tackle human diseases that have so far escaped doctors. And we may be able to do something about Alzheimer's, about Huntington's and about cancer. And the promise of genetics is much more important than the scare stories.